Good evening, YouTube. It's about 7 p.m., a beautiful Friday evening here in Montreal, and I'm just about to take you down Rue Saint-Denis towards the downtown core. First, we're going to be going down through the Latin Quarter, Quartier Latin. Then we're going to be passing by an area called Place des Arts, also known as Quartier des Spectacles, which means, basically it means the quarter where the spectacles take place, which is a fancy way of saying it's a part of the city with a lot of festivals and music and art exhibits and all kinds of stuff like that. But I thought it would be nice to start at the bottom limits of Plateau, a beautiful neighborhood that I showed more completely in a recent video on this channel, so you can go back if you want to see this neighborhood. It has a lot of homes like that, colorful, historic, sometimes better to look at than to live in, to be honest. Just got a thumbs up from one of the guys in that car. Not sure if you could see that, but someone noticed me filming. And what you might notice as we continue our walk is what I was talking about. These homes are absolutely gorgeous, but as someone who's lived in some of these old homes, they often have very thin walls, or, you know, maybe the staircases that are cool to look at are actually really sketchy and icy in the wintertime. And yeah, some of the landlords just do not fix these places up at all. So be warned, if you want to live in that cool neighborhood of Montreal, there are pros and cons to that decision. But as we make our way over to Saint-Denis, you're going to see one of the pros, which is you are right in the heart of the action. I think I will cross here. In front of me you can see Dépanneur Saint-Denis. Dépanneur is a word you should definitely know if you're spending time in Montreal. That is what we call the corner shops here, convenience stores. YouTube Josh Angle Pro Wrestler. I guess that's another YouTuber growing his subscriber base by putting up posters, doing it the old school way. Why didn't I think of that? I admire the hustle. This video will focus on downtown, but since I'm passing by a little park, and it is a beautiful day. Not too hot, but very, very pleasant. It's about 20 degrees Celsius. And it's, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a Friday, so a great place to sit with friends, or even just sit on your own and take in the leaves, the fountain, the vibe of life here in the Plateau. And now we're going to go somewhere that is going to be even busier. And that is downtown. This won't be a comprehensive tour to all of downtown, but it will be at least a 30-minute walk through some of the interesting points. So if you're a tourist, take notes. No, I don't know what to say. You don't need to take notes, but I just mean I'll try to offer some useful tips for tourists. But if you're a local, I will also share my insights, and you can let me know if you agree what I have to say about this city. A moment of silence, perhaps, for this person. This is quite serious. What I didn't know this was here. I'm just reading it now, but a pedestrian was killed here on October 8th, 2024. That's actually my first time seeing one of those, but I recognized what it was because somewhere in a few different locations around the city, I've noticed they're called ghost bikes, and they're these white painted bikes that people have left flowers on, and they're to indicate that people have been struck by cars in the location, struck by cars and killed, I should say, in the location that the ghost bikes are left. That, I guess, is like ghost shoes, you could say. I just thought that was worth mentioning because as much as I can joke about jaywalking and stuff, and I'm gonna actually make a run here. Yeah. I knew that was a long light, so I knew I could make it, but anyway, all jokes aside, pedestrians, cyclists, and cars, we all share this city. We all got to watch out for each other. We all got to remember the stakes are very high, so especially if you're a driver, please watch out. Now, we're making our way down Saint Denis into the Latin Quarter, which I was mentioning before. At some point during the summer, this is actually closed to cars, and the pedestrians can just take the main street. But even when it's not, I think it's still worth exploring. I believe this is a cigar lounge. Yeah, cigar lounge. And yeah, in general, there's a lot of, as you can tell, there's a lot of bars, there's a lot of nightlife. But there's more unique places, you know, there's some really cool like places down there that have blues music every night. There's whatever you're looking for, you can probably find it down here. I'm going to cross to show you some of the artwork and terraces that we have over here. Le Saint-Boc. I can tell you there's also a couple of all-you-can-eat buffets around here. Oh, I think this is one of them, actually. $43, wow, okay. I remember before COVID, I think it was like $24.99 or something. Ugh. That's when you start to feel old, when you start talking about how how much cheaper the prices used to be. Oh, this is interesting. Tassot, Haitian food. This wasn't here. This must be new. I don't remember seeing this before. Oh, I was very close to stopping and going in there because I haven't had dinner yet. But I think if I did, it might be dark by the time I'm done my meal. But anyway, for anyone who doesn't know, Haitian food is delicious. Delicious. I mean, they have some of the Caribbean specialties like jerk chicken. They also have something called griot. I think I'm saying that right, G-R-I-O-T. And yeah, griot is like this pork dish that, oh, it's just amazing. And there is a big Haitian community in Montreal, the biggest in Canada, in fact. So if you want to try some local dishes, it will probably be more authentic than Tres Amigos, that place with the giant sombreros. I don't mean to hate on Tres Amigos. I'm not sure I've ever eaten there, but I've had a lot of Mexican food in my life, and that place looks like a tourist trap from the outside. Anyway, you can see these restaurants and bars just continue and continue. And this place beside me, Espace Saint Denis, looks like it has musicals and all kinds of stuff going on over there. So, oh, look at this. Speak of the devil, I was telling you about how this road is sometimes closed. So it starts June 3rd, which is like literally 3 or 4 days from now. 4 or 5 days from now. So that is pretty exciting. A sign that summer is almost upon us. Now, as we continue our walk, there's 2 interesting directions I could go here. And we are currently at the Berry-UQAM metro station, which is spelled B-E-R-R-I, Berry-UQAM, U-Q-A-M. It's kind of a confusing name if you've never been here. But Berry-UQAM is probably the best place to transit to if you're trying to explore this area. But as you can see from all the stuff listed here, what I've just shown you is actually just scratching the surface. So as we pass by this very skinny and interesting looking church, I'm going to walk you towards, oh, getting windy. I almost said, do you feel that? But of course you don't feel that. Unless you are also watching this from a windy street, which would be interesting. But anyway, the point is, I'm going to walk you down St. Catherine's, which is a very interesting street going east to west. If you're just looking for a long walk to get the feeling of Montreal, it's a good place to go. But also I should mention, right where that corner was is another avenue called de Maisonneuve. And de Maisonneuve is another east to west avenue you could take. That's interesting as well. It has a bike lane, a protected bike lane, which St. Catherine's doesn't. So in general, if you're biking, it's probably a better one to take. But if you want to people watch and you want to just see a lot of iconic things in the city, St. Catherine's is probably a good bet. I'm just wondering if there's anything Down here, I think a couple blocks down is where the gay village starts. The center of the gay community in Montreal. Though I must say that in recent years, that neighborhood has fallen into a rough condition, by which I mean more people living rough and dealing with substance abuse issues. So, you know, with all respect to people who live there or who spend their days there, just something tourists should be aware of. In general, Montreal is a very safe city for a city this size. Now, as I say that, you can literally see police are doing something across the street, so remember, we're in a big city. There's a lot of things happening. And so use the common sense that you should bring with you to any big city. But if you want to visit the gay village, don't not go there because I said it's a rougher part of the city. Because in general, Montreal's safety remains very high. Especially if you are like a visible minority or a woman or someone who might have extra concern. I think, you know, Montreal is a city that has people from all over. And so in general, I'd say it's much safer than many similar cities. Poutine and 2 hot dogs. Obviously I'm getting hungry because I'm starting to get distracted by everything food related. We'll see if I can find any food options near the end of this video. But first, our walk continues. And just for anyone who's wondering, and maybe I'll cross the street just to switch it up a bit. Just for anyone who's wondering, this area I'm in now, between Berry-UQAM and Saint Laurent, is also, I mean, like I said about that area being rougher, I would say as you get to the next metro station, which is going to be Place des Arts, and that's where a lot of the summer festivals take place. That's where the real heart of downtown begins. So even though this area is interesting to walk through as well, I mean, look at some of this artwork, which I've never actually seen before. But yeah, this area here, you're seeing like, in some sense you could say more the real Montreal, because Montreal does have a lot of grittiness to it. Outside of the tourist core, it's a city that has a lot of abandoned buildings. It's a city that has a lot of punks, a lot of different subcultures and graffiti artists and you know, anarchists and all the things. But in the city core, you notice less of that. But one sign that this area might be gentrifying is this, Homer's Donuts. That is a Simpsons themed donut shop, which I've never got into, but I have seen it advertised before. Should I get it? Should I get a donut? I am a big Simpsons fan. at least the early seasons. I mean, listen, people always say things like, oh, advertising doesn't work on me. I'm too smart for advertising, you know? I've heard so many people say that. But at the end of the day, when a TV show you like opens a donut shop in your city, it's hard to say no. Boston cream. As I film this, I'm actually standing outside of a pretty iconic punk bar called Fufun Electric. I've been there a couple times, but if you want to be there, you know, you gotta be ready. You know, if I went in there wearing this white T-shirt and eating this donut, like, you know, they would kick me out of there. It's the real deal. Well, anyway, that donut hit the spot. I was skeptical at first. I actually thought, like, a donut's a donut. But when I compare that to like Tim Hortons, it's definitely a step up. Now, I know some people would say Tim Hortons is a very low bar to compare something to. I guess what I'm saying is for $3, I have no regrets. But I also wouldn't go out of my way to go there, you know. Telus, another iconic music venue here in Montreal. Tonight, someone called Rampage is playing. So as you can tell, there's all types of people down here, and I would say that really, I would say that corner, at least in my mind, is where like the heart of downtown begins. Because now we're about to be at, oh wow, look at this across the street. There's some kind of is this like an anime convention or something? There's some people dressed up in some traditional costumes or something. This is pretty cool.
And my brother-in-law used to have a Hummer.
Oh yeah.
Fucking problems every time.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Colombia? What country? Which country do you Armenian? Armenian? I said Colombia. Also kind of color.
This is cool. Hello. Where are you from?
Romania.
Romania. Oh, cool. Is it a Romanian cultural event? Okay. Thank you.
That's sick. Why don't
They actually had a proper camera. I mean, there's a proper cameraman following them, so I will let them do their thing. They're actually following me now. This is wild. Look at this. I was walking away to not get in their way, and then next thing you know, they were following me. I wonder how far they're going to go for. I got to tell you, though, this part of the city, there is always something going on. I mean, we have the Romanian parade. We have, look at this, we have a mot caché. So this is like a word search. Surprise. That's all I can find. In front of us, look at this. This is a... Now, by the way, like, anyone who watches this, you're gonna come here in like a week and everything's gonna be different. Esplanade Danse. Free. 30th, 31st, and 1st of June. So that's tonight, actually. Look at this. So it says Cinema Dance Under the Stars tonight, tomorrow, or all 3 days actually at 9 p.m. Oh, so this is just films on dance. Well, I would rather see dance. So that's at 11 a.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. So nothing left tonight but the film. But yeah, we're gonna continue, and we're just gonna keep finding things. I mean, there's a roller skating thing coming up. I'm telling you, every time I'm here, like I was down here a week ago, and someone had set up, well, not someone, the city had set up this giant ping pong table, but it was like swerving like a giant S. So like basically dozens of people could play at the same time, and they had free paddles and balls. And they also had basketball hoops where they were renting. They were like free basketballs. And I thought it was really cool. I was gonna invite some friends to play basketball, but then just yesterday I was walking by. I was actually going to the Bay closing sale, which is also something that's going on downtown. And I noticed it was already gone. Like they set up this big exhibit for sports and stuff, and then a week later it's gone. And the reason things are coming and going so quick is because, like, look at all, these are all festivals in the month of May. And then Franco de Montreal is coming very soon. This is a big Francophone music festival. That's not even mentioning the jazz festival, the International Jazz Festival, which is like 2 weeks of music every day, all day pretty much. Like that's a huge thing for this area in late June, early July. And so I guess what I'm saying is, if you come down here during the summer, you're gonna find things. If you're someone who likes to plan ahead, you know, you can do some searching. But even if you're coming to Montreal, like, let's say you're taking a spontaneous trip to the city, and you have a weekend here, and you don't know where to go or what to do, come here and see what happens. I mentioned this briefly earlier on, but I'll say it again. This is Place des Arts. That is a stop on the metro station, which you can take a train to, and that'll be underground, and you're gonna pop up like right where I'm standing. Exactly here, you're gonna pop out of thin air. No, there's one exit over there, there's one inside there, there's a few exits. But from here, you've got a great spot to explore all around downtown. A downtown which is not particularly tall, at least not, you know, notably tall. Like we don't have as many skyscrapers as Vancouver, or definitely not as many as Toronto. But it is a quickly growing city. And what we lack in height we definitely make up for in character on the ground. I'm talking about the parks, the benches, the free water stations like you see right in front of me. And of course the amazing people who are all through the city who make it what it is. That was embarrassing for a moment when it wasn't working. I was like, come on, free water. I'm like talking about you in my video and then you're not gonna work. Beautiful music from that musician making its way down the streets. I don't know what country of origin that guy's from either. I think, to me, the music sounds, it sounds maybe North African, and the only reason I say that is because it kind of reminds me of some stuff I heard when I was in Morocco, but I could be totally off. It could be something from the Middle East. It could be something from India. Like, I have no idea. And that is one of the cool things about Montreal, and one of the cool things about downtown specifically, because, to be honest, even though Montreal is a very multicultural city, like there's certain areas you can go to where, you know, that's where most of the Latino population lives. There's certain areas that are, you know, more people from the Middle East. There's certain areas that have more people who speak English, more speak French. But when you come downtown, it's the meeting grounds of everyone. It's the great equalizer, you know? St. Catherine is where everyone comes. Rich, poor, tourist, or 85-year-old who's lived here for their whole life, you know? Everyone comes here eventually. And so you could say that if you want to see Montreal and all of its multicultural beauty, St. Catharines is where you feel that the most. Now, there is something else worth mentioning a block or two up. But first, I'll give a quick mention to this church, which actually has a music and dance venue inside. I've never been in there, but I'm just crossing the street because that music's really loud and might be hard to hear me, but yeah, that red light over there is the entrance to Le Balcon. Now we're getting into the heart of the shopping area. So if you're someone who likes to shop, you have many options down here. But you're about to have one fewer. And I think it's worth mentioning this quickly. That striking red building there is home to the Hudson Bay Company, often called the Bay. And this company, I'll tell you something most Canadians will already know, but most foreigners will not know. This company is actually older than the country of Canada. In fact, it's twice as old as the country of Canada. Canada as we know it is just over 150 years old. This company has existed since 1670. So how is that possible, you might ask? Well, when you think back to the earliest history on this continent, the first Europeans who arrived, what were they doing when they met the indigenous people who lived here? Well, one thing they were doing is trading furs, right? The first peoples of Canada have a long tradition of using the furs from animals, and this was very interesting to Europeans at the time. And so a fur trading company called the Hudson Bay Fur, I think it was just called the Hudson Bay Fur Trading, something like that, was developed in 1670, and for like a long time afterwards, that's what it was. It eventually evolved into a department store, probably the most iconic Canadian department store. But like a lot of companies, it failed to adapt. It kind of became somewhere that, you know, my parents or their parents remember shopping at a lot, but maybe they didn't adapt to the cool new styles. What's up, brother? What did that guy say? I think he said something like, "Welcome to Montreal." Anyway, all kinds of people are sharing the good vibes today. When the weather is out, everyone feels talkative. When the weather is cold, nobody wants to talk in the city. But anyway, as I was saying, the Hudson Bay Company has gone bankrupt. And so a lot of enormous stores like this across the country are doing liquidation. They're doing their final sales. In fact, this one here, I think there's only 3 days left. It'll be too late for most people who see this to actually catch the sale. But if you do get a chance, I think even if you don't buy anything, it might be interesting just to walk through and get some memories from this once historic Canadian company. Of course, there's a bigger discussion to be had about colonialism, and some people saying that, you know, Hudson Bay Company represents things that are not good for our country, not something to be proud of. That's a larger discussion, which will sidetrack this video too much, but worth reflecting on, isn't it? Our country's history, so much of which is being sold off in its final sale. I'll get back to the streets in a minute here. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to see. I was actually down here a couple days ago, so I know roughly what this looks like. And even in the last couple of days, I've seen this has emptied out a lot. And one of the interesting things is they're actually selling, like, not just the clothing that's left, but the actual like shelves, you know, and the mannequins and the lights, and everything's got to go. So. Now, another sign of just how much is happening in the city in front of us, I'll briefly mention, this is I believe a animal rights organization who stand on streets, and I've seen this a couple of times before. They have TVs showing the treatment of, in this case, chickens. And it's actually very intense to look at. But I guess that's the point. It's one of those things that a lot of people choose to look away from, and they're kind of forcing people to look at. All kinds of things to think about on this corner between the Bay Closure and between that. But our walk's going to continue. And yeah. Once again, I mean, at the end of the day, I eat eggs. I'm a meat eater. I'm not a vegetarian or vegan. But I do respect people who stand up for their beliefs. You know, like those people. It's not easy to stand somewhere with thousands of people walking by and to stand there for hours with the television to make a political point. I respect the commitment to their cause, let's say. But moving on, we're now at the Eden Center, which is, ironically, Eden is another Canadian department store that went bankrupt like 20 years ago. It's still named the Eden Center, and this one is still, it's full of other places to shop and eat. But now that I think about it, Canadian department stores are having a rough go. I'll tell you who's not having a rough time though. That guy is killing it on the saxophone. There's actually a lot of good food options in here. Should I quickly go in here? There's a place called Time Out Market. I'm not sure if I've ever shown this in a YouTube video before. I think it'll be worth just quickly showing you. As we pass by Uniqlo. The first Uniqlo in Quebec, as far as I know. But yeah, up ahead is Time Out Market. And the reason I'm showing you this, even though at the end of the day it's just a food court, is it's a food court that has kind of like more local options. So for only slightly more than you would pay at McDonald's or Subway, you get to have a cool environment serving you like a quality Montreal burger chain or Montreal sandwich place. In fact, quick tip for anyone who comes here, there's a place called Bossa, which has really good sandwiches. B-O-S-S-A. Check it out. It's also a Friday night, and I just realized that this place is kind of like a, you know, it's dimly lit, and there's a lot of couples eating their meals on their date night, so they don't need a random guy with his camera walking around talking about the food options. I'll let them have their night. This is just a very small taste of what this Eden Center has to offer. There's even many different levels to it. You know, there's like 4 or 5 different floors, including 2 or 3 below us. So, yeah, if you are someone who likes to shop, that's a pretty good place to go. What used to be a good place to go is Five Guys Burgers and Fries, which was here. But then the building suspiciously burned down. Rest in peace, Five Guys. I say suspiciously because a lot of these old buildings are worth a lot of money now because downtown is quickly becoming more and more popular, right? You can actually see some of the black, you know, what was, I mean, that was from the fire, I assume. The building here burned. But yeah, anyway, You have to wonder sometimes about these fires in very old buildings on very expensive streets. And I will say nothing more about that. I feel like a lot of people are ready to get their Friday night started. Now, St. Catharines itself is not, I mean, I guess there are some places like that where people can sit and drink, but if people are looking for nightlife, there's probably more of that in Old Montreal, which is just down that way in the direction of that giant ring. And here, at the corner of McGill College Street and St. Catharines, you actually get a pretty cool view in both directions. That is the mountain, Mount Royal, which shares its name with Montreal. And the sun is beginning to set on it, giving everything a really beautiful glow right now, including the building behind that giant ring, which was installed at the cost of, like, I don't want to make up a number. I was about to say like $50 million. Maybe it was 20 million. I don't know. I just remember it was a number that maybe it was even 10 million. I don't know. But when it was built, of course, there were people who were very upset at the city for spending that much money on a giant ring. But I think it's cool. I mean, it definitely gives you something interesting to look at. I think it'd be cool if they had, like, I don't know, is there a way to like put strings and like put something in the middle that like changes, you know, is there a way to do something with the ring to kind of make it a changing exhibit? That'd be cool. But since I'm here, I will walk you under it just to show you. It is massive. So once again, you can't see it at all because of these buildings, but this way gets you towards Old Montreal. And sort of in this direction is an area called Griffintown. Old Montreal is one of the oldest areas in the city. Griffintown is one of the newest. It's kind of a more high-end area that a lot of people, well, not high-end, but it's just, it's a lot of new glass condos. So it's visually a lot newer than most of the city. Old Montreal, if you're a tourist, you got to see it at least once. It's, yeah, it's all the things people say about it. It's a little taste of Europe. It's a beautiful area. And it's also got great views of the St. Lawrence River. So walking down by the water is pretty nice on a summer day as well. I'm not sure how much longer I will film for, even though St. Catharines does continue and go on and on. If I were to continue walking down it, I would take you to Quartier, which is a student area. And around that area is also a large number of Asian restaurants, specifically a lot of Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. So if you're someone who wants to get yourself a Korean barbecue, or, well, of course, there's also Chinatown, which is also behind us. Chinatown you would kind of see if you were walking from Saint Denis, where I started, over to Old Montreal. So there's too many places for me to show you in one video. Montreal is not a small city, and this is not a small downtown. But I hope, as I show you a bit of the interesting architecture here, this has been an interesting tour for you all. Maybe this massive building behind me can inspire you to visit Old Montreal and see some more of the cool architecture in this city. This is called the Sun Life Building. And right now I'm in Dorchester Square. And it's here that I will leave you tonight, my friends. Thank you for joining me on this spring walk in Montreal. I'll leave you with one more fun fact, and then I will call it a day. Do you see this fountain in front of me? Now, this is the story I heard, and I believe it to be true. When they were installing this, they accidentally broke a city law which said you're not allowed to have the fountain a certain distance from the street. And instead of removing it, they decided to just cut it in two and turn it into a kind of funky piece of artwork, which you can see in front of me. That's how we do it in Montreal, my friends. It's a city that likes to do things different, and I hope that is shown in today's video. I also want to thank you for joining me today. And it's a good time that I'm ending because I feel a few raindrops. Or maybe it was just from the fountain, but I think it's raining. In any case, this is the end of today's video. As always, I'm Dan. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.